This is Paul Tandy, Immigration Barrister at Imperial Chambers. Please subscribe to my channel for the up-to-date immigration news. Today I'm going to be covering Ukraine and the sad humanitarian crisis there as a result of the war. The UK government has not exactly covered itself in glory in helping the victims of the war in Ukraine and has insisted upon individuals applying for visas. It appears that the government is finally doing something. In my view, it is too little, too late, and too small to make much of a difference compared to some of the other EU countries that do seem to have welcomed the refugees. But then really, what does one expect from Priti Patel, who wants to criminalise asylum seekers, send them to islands in the middle of an ocean, put their lives at risk in the Channel with her licence to kill plan? But there we are. There is a sad parallel with history in this regard. Prior to the Second World War, it was apparent that the Nazi regime was persecuting Jews. The UK government made it extremely difficult for people to seek sanctuary here and refused a lot of people visas. As a result, people would say, or many people might argue, that a lot of people died as a result of that attitude. And that attitude seems to be repeating itself here. However, I have decided to do a video on the three schemes whereby Ukrainians can, at least in theory, even if it's difficult, apply to come and seek security in the United Kingdom or remain in the United Kingdom. The Home Office, following all its announcements, has finally incorporated these schemes into the UK immigration rules. So they will need to be considered carefully. As you don't meet the rules, you end up in trouble. Indeed, the Home Office are creating a Ukrainian appendix to the immigration rules, as if they weren't complicated enough. The first two, which have been around for a little bit, are the Ukrainian Family Scheme and the Homes for Ukraine Scheme, the new scheme is called the Ukrainian Extension Scheme for people stranded in the Ukraine on a regular visa that may be expiring, although it doesn't open to the 3rd of May, and it does exclude overstayers, but more of that later. Let's start now with the Ukrainian Family Scheme rules. This route allows British people and some immigrants to sponsor a wide range of Ukrainian nationals, though not those on student or family or student visas. Forcing people to get visas in the first place is not ideal in my view, but the fact that Ukrainian international passport holders can apply now online will go some way to soften the visa backlog. Apparently 20,000 visas have been issued as of the 29th of March, which is a drop in the ocean compared to other European countries. The type of leave that will be granted is leave outside the immigration rules, invoking the Home Office's wide discretion to grant visas to whoever she wishes. The Family Scheme Rules appeal in Appendix Ukraine provide that there are no application fees or immigration health surcharge to pay, so that's welcome, as fees are often very high. You either need entry clearance or Ukrainian international passport holders and an approval letter before travel. You can be refused a visa if you have a criminal record or on various other grounds, such as good character. You will need a sponsor who has one of the following: British citizenship, indefinite leave to remain, refugee status, humanitarian protection status, EU settled status, or EU pre-settled status, as long as you were living in the UK before the 1st of January 2021. So it is quite wide. The people that can come is quite wide as well. It's spouses, partners, fiancés, children, parents-in-law, grandparents, siblings, aunts, uncles, cousins, nieces and nephews of the sponsor are eligible for a visa, as are their own immediate families. This is provided that they are Ukrainian citizens or coming along with a Ukrainian citizen who's part of the sponsor's immediate family. So it is quite broad. So to that extent, the government haven't cut things down. The type of leave that will be granted will be for 36 months with the right to work and study and access to public funds, something that a lot of migrants don't get over here. You can also apply in the UK, but only if you're in the United Kingdom lawfully. Now I'll turn to the second route, and this is called the Homes for Ukraine scheme. This second route, which has been criticised, and I'll be doing a short video on the problems that are involved in it, and why it can be quite dangerous, is the second route by way Ukrainians can come to the United Kingdom. This applies to Ukrainians who aren't eligible for the family scheme. This just requires a sponsor who is willing to put you up for 6 months. The sponsor can be a family member, a friend, or even a total stranger if people are minded to help out. Over 28,000 people had applied for Homes for Ukraine visas as of the 29th of March, but sadly, it will come as no surprise, only 2,700 visas have been issued. As for the family scheme, there will be no fees, and the grant of leave will be for 3 years leave to remain in the United Kingdom. As usual with the Home Office, things aren't that simple, and to qualify, an applicant must have an approved sponsor. Where a family group wants to come, so mother, father, or mother, daughter, etc., they must all stay with the same approved sponsor, so they can't just go and live with other people's houses. Now, an approved sponsor isn't defined in the appendix itself, but in paragraph 6.2 of the immigration rules, it's someone who meets the eligibility and suitability requirements for the Homes to Ukraine sponsor guidance. I'll attach a link in that below. Another restriction for the Homes to Ukrainian scheme is that you can only bring immediate family members with you rather than a wider range of relatives. So whereas the first scheme pretty much is open to extensive family members, this one is a lot shorter. The third and latest scheme, which in my view probably ought to have been the first scheme to have been announced, is the Ukrainian extension scheme. Now, the two visa schemes that at least opened the possibility for Ukrainians to come to the United Kingdom. However, there are probably quite a large amount of Ukrainians who are already in the United Kingdom or were before the war started. These would be people such as seasonal workers, perhaps, for example, or people that are studying, or people that are on Tier 2 sponsor licenses. They are not covered in the first two schemes, but the government has accepted that they should not be prejudiced by being caught in the United Kingdom through no fault of their own. This may well help Ukrainians who are here, as I mentioned, on a seasonal work basis, and the grant of leave is far more generous for those that are on a seasonal basis. The Ukrainian extension scheme is again free and comes with access to work, study benefits, and also a 3-year grant of leave. The requirements for such a scheme, and this is for the extension scheme, is that the applicant must have had or have leave to enter on the 18th of March 2022, unless they were in the UK immediately before the 1st of January 2022, or they have a child born in the United Kingdom after the 18th of March 2022. Now turning to the bad news, and there always is some with the Home Office. If you have been an overstayer since before the start of 2022, you are out of luck. You do not qualify. However, people in this position will not be sent back to the Ukraine. Apparently Priti Patel has given a word on that, and I would like to see it happen, or try to happen, because I don't think the courts would tolerate it. But in order for them to get status, they're probably going to need to claim asylum in order to regularise their status and get some kind of legal status in the United Kingdom. Unfortunately, they cannot swap into the Homes for Ukraine scheme to find a private sponsor, as that scheme only allows for applications from abroad. Also, this scheme only comes into effect on the 3rd of May 2022. There are some negatives on the extension scheme, such as not being able to bring family members over and not being able to swap into a route which would allow them to bring family members over. And there is one final risk, and this goes to people on skilled worker route. If they've been granted 3 years leave to remain, then they would only need another 2 years, and then they would qualify for indefinite leave to remain. However, if they switch into the extension scheme, they'd get a 3-year visa, but at the end of that 3-year visa, they'd be in the United Kingdom for some 6 years, and therefore they wouldn't qualify for indefinite leave to remain because they would be 4 years short of the 10 years lawful residence rule. And we quite simply don't know what's going to happen in 3 years' time, or in fact in a month's time, really, in respect of Ukraine. So I hope peace comes soon. So this is a broad overview of all the various routes that the government has finally got its act together in respect of trying to help people from Ukraine. Again, there is this requirement for a visa. The government says it's to stop terrorists or infiltrators getting into the United Kingdom. Though it could be argued that an awful lot of the terrorist activity in the United Kingdom seems to be quite homegrown, rather than it being likely to be caused by women and children fleeing the war in Ukraine. But this is a government that has pledged itself to the hostile environment and is seeking to bring a new immigration bill in, which will essentially drive a coach and horses through the UK's international obligations. So there you have it. These are the three routes. One of them opens on the 3rd of May. The other two are available now. If you have any questions or you want any further information, please do not hesitate to contact me and I will do my level best to help you. Thank you for watching this. I pray that we have peace in the Ukraine soon and that matters settle down so people can return home to their homes, or what's left of their homes. And I hope that the EU and the UK contribute to the rebuilding of Ukraine after this sad war. Those are just my personal thoughts on this matter. I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. I hope it's been somewhat informative. Please, as I say, if you have any questions or doubts on this or any other immigration matter, get in touch with me and I'll do my best to help you. Thank you again for watching. This is Paul Turner, the Immigration Barrister at Imperium Chambers.